Okay, good morning, everybody. I've got 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the notice of funding for the Disaster Relief and Mitigation Fund 2025. Uh, we have with us our grants manager that oversees this program, Jeff Welker, and Jeff's going to be just going over the notice of funding and talking about any issues and questions and roadblocks that he's seen in the past. Jeff has managed this program since long-term recovery under North Carolina Emergency Management started it, or it was started or funded by the General Assembly back in 2021. This is, Jeff, this is our third or notice of funding, or fourth notice of funding on this. We are always excited to have this. Let me also introduce myself. My name is Joe Stanton. I'm the Assistant Director for Recovery. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, as Joe said, we just want to take the opportunity to kind of share the notice of funding with everybody, go through it kind of verbally, some of the high points, and that should hopefully clarify any issues in maybe the understanding of the reading of the document. And then obviously we'll allow for some questions if there anything further anybody has. So let me try to share my screen with the notice. Hopefully everybody can see that.
I can see it, Jeff.
Okay, good. Thank you, Joe. All right, so as Joe said, this is I guess the fourth iteration of funds that have flown out of come from the Disaster Relief and Mitigation Fund. And this notice is slightly specific. It has some nuances compared to historical notices that we put out just because of the Hurricane Helene. And so we'll talk about some of those as we go through the document. So this fund is open for units of local government and certain nonprofit organizations. Funding is really for flood mitigation type projects, building resiliency against these disasters we have. And it also allows for folks in local governments to not necessarily just ask for shovel-ready projects, but they also have the opportunity to ask for engineering assistance grants to actually fund the development of that particular project. So they might be in a better position in the future for, a lot larger array of grant opportunities once they have have the engineering documents in place, if that's important to them. As I said, there's a bit of a uniqueness to this particular offering this time, just because of the hurricane out here in the western part of the state. There is a caveat where an applicant should be able to provide at least an understanding of that this isn't replacing a source of funds either from FEMA public assistance or an insurance policy, where maybe an applicant thought it would just be easier to go this route versus dealing with either some of the nuances of a public assistance program or arguing with their insurance carrier. You really need to try to work those programs to their end, and then obviously if funding isn't available there, then this fund is open for application. We extended the time a little longer than we normally do for this grant, just because of all the activities going on out here in the western part of the state. So the application date closes at 5 p.m. on November 28th of this year. And so please make sure the applications, if you're planning to apply, are in before that date. Historically, they tend to come in right at the last minute, but you certainly can submit them anywhere between now and that time frame. A little more specificity about what might be eligible. Again, I said mostly flood mitigation type projects. We're looking for things that sort of are able to discuss the risk of future damage, the reduction of that, either structural or non-structural kind of things, and or these engineering assistant grants. And again, I would say those are what we typically look for. There is it's not an engineering grant that just says, well, let's look at everything and we'll figure out. Then we want the assistance for us to figure out what we should be looking at. That's not really what it's about. It's about a specific project or an area where you have a problem, and then getting the engineering done for that particular project. That's what we like to see in these more than anything. The initial funding for this particular notice this time is $20 million. It has a caveat of $15 million will be targeted towards the Helene affected areas here in the western part of the state, at least at a minimum. Grants are limited to $2 million for a single recipient, and a single county of all the recipients in that county can't get more than $4 million. These are 100% state funds. They are 100% funded, and so therefore you have no cost share to apply for these. They are paid on a reimbursement basis, and administrative kind of costs are not eligible for these types of grants. We have a list in the NOFO. I'm not going to go over those, but these are just some examples of the types of things that might be eligible for these funds. Again, it's not a full list, but I think they're broad enough that it gives you a pretty good feel of the breadth that might be available here. We have a general period of performance of 36 months. We look at what your time frame is for your specific grant, and we would tailor the MOA specifically to what you believe your time frame is, but we try not to let those go beyond 36 months. So let's talk a little bit about the application process itself. Again, all this is in the NOFO for reading, but a little clarity here. Again, we're to the point where we are waiting on applications. So those are due by November 28th. We will then work to review all of those, provide recommendations to our director, and then ultimately be in a position to send out letters of notification sometime in January, probably with the holidays, the latter part of January, to let people know whether they've received a grant and or have not received a grant. We will communicate in both ways. That has been our norm throughout this process. And then we quickly thereafter try to complete and sign the grant agreements. Usually when we make a notification to someone that's received a grant, we do that at the same time. We send out the MOA really at the same time we send out the award notification. And so then it's up to you how quickly you can sign everything and get that back to us, and then we can sign off on it and you're good to go. So those are important dates. So a little bit more about the instructions that are in the NOFO. So you have the deadline. The application is submitted by email to our email box, and you see that here, NCEM LTR, so NCEM long-term recovery.grant@ncdps.gov. We ask that you put that particular title in, so your name of the applicant, how you're naming the project, and then the 2025 DRMF grant application. So please make sure you do that. The application this time is a little different than last time, a little simpler for us to administer. We just ask that you complete most people do it as a Word document using these 6 points below as headers. Answer then those questions in those 6 points to the best of your ability. Save that as a PDF document and then attach it to this email and email that to us. And that is your application. You are welcome to add additional attachments that might support that application. For instance, if you've already done an engineering document of some sort and you write up the application, you might want to attach maybe the summary of the engineering work or the summary of the timeline, or maybe some support letter from some other stakeholder in your area that believes this is a very important project and why it's impactful to the community. All those things could be attached as additional support for your application. Beyond these 6 points, we just provided a little bit of clarity here in the NOFO of maybe what makes it competitive. So it really is designed to give you just a flavor of what we're kind of looking for and how to help make your application as strong as possible. Again, we have a panel that scores these, so everybody reads them a little differently, and each time, we might have different panelists, so they could read them a little differently. But in general, I think these points help clarify what in some cases makes a proposal stronger than another. Again, as we select projects, each of those winning applications, for lack of a better word, will be expected to sign a grant agreement, an MOA, and comply with those terms. And then when the MOA is returned to us, we do require certain forms that come back along with the MOA before we get the final authorization by Director Ray for the award. But again, we're just conducting this final workshop as a courtesy to make sure, one, we can record it and post it online, and two, for anybody that might have missed these original 2 workshops. And I'll scroll down here to the bottom. So the more important part here too is if you have any questions beyond this meeting, somebody needs to reach out. They can reach out to me at this email box here listed on the screen, and we'll do our best to get back to you, with an answer to your question you might have or any clarity that you need for this notice. So with that, I will unshare my screen. And I will ask if anyone has any questions for Joe and I about these particular funds.
Jeff, Nicole asked a question in chat, and the question was basically, as she read the NOFA, there was a potentially up to $5 million for local governments outside of Helene affected areas. Would that be correct? The answer is that there's a minimum. There's $20 million been set aside for Western North Carolina in this. We were able to also attain $5 million. So yes, Nicole, you are correct. There will be potentially up to $5 million for local governments outside the Helene affected area. We also have, potentially we're awarding a minimum of 15 million, or at least we hope to have strong enough applications that we can award a minimum of 15 million, if not more, up to the 20 million at this time. In the past, we have held back some of the total amount that was awarded, because what we found out after the first year is that there was, even though the communities did their very best at estimating, due to construction constraints and everything else beyond their control, and these were great projects, that they may needed just a little bit more money or funding to bring these projects to a completion. We certainly don't want a minimum amount of money to hold an area that, if this project was complete, would result in the opportunity for the mitigation of a community. We try our very best to keep these projects simple. We work very closely with the communities. We consider this a partnership effort between the state and local governments. We're grateful for the support the General Assembly has given us to allow us to continue to offer these grants. And we believe that this program has done very good has done extraordinary projects throughout. The community has really been receptive. The grantors that have received this, or grantees that have received this in the past. I'll stop there. Jeff, you got anything to add?
No, I think you said that fairly well, Joe. I had a question from one of our earlier ones on a similar line about that $5 million. And again, I think we because we've had various rounds of funding for disaster relief mitigation, we've had, and some of our awardees have underspent their grants. We've had, additional dollars available to us. And so we wanted to make sure that while, again, a large part of this is trying to help Western North Carolina rebuild, we also realize there's still opportunities to build resiliency in the rest of the state. So we tried to bring some of that into this round as well. And so that's why we've done that. And I'll say one more thing. Joe's been adamant since we've started this program and the way we designed it and pulled it together, that he wanted us to try to, again, as he said, work with these our grantees and help them achieve what they set out to do. And that's not always as simple as your initial grant application. And so we do our best to modify things and work with things as they get presented with problems. And we'll continue to do that because the goal was to build resiliency. It's that simple. Any other questions? I can't see the chat, Joe, so.
Yeah, there's a question. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi, this is Rebecca Badgett from the School of Government. And we're talking here about like the application process, which I think is important, obviously, for them to get it right. And I appreciate all the guidance on the online about what competitive proposals will include. Is there anything particular that you would be looking for as far as a way to structure the application or information that should definitely be included if we're working with units to help review these applications or draft the applications? Are there any tips that you have besides making sure we check off the boxes for those specific bullet points? How best to check off the boxes, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess I would say this, if you understand how we process these, right? You have, Joe usually gives me a number of panelists, and it's usually in their 5 range of folks that have to read these, right? And we tend to get, I guess historically at least, we've tended to get 40 to 50 applications, maybe even 60 applications each time. And so you can imagine, 5 or 6 people reading 60 applications and then having to score these and figure out which one they like better than the next. So when we look at these 6 bullet points, I think you got to realize that people are going to have maybe 30 minutes to read one of these. And so as you answer these 6 points, think about maybe a reasonable length for each one, and certainly there are a couple of those have a lot more weighting than others, right? The scope of work and the cost and how it's actually going to help the community mitigate against some future damage, right? The better you're able to write those and summarize, and then you could always attach a few things to back that up if you want. Some panelists like to read the backup, others might not, right? They might read the summary and they might get enough out of that. And then where they have, I would say after they get through all of them, and there might be a few that are kind of in that middle ground, they might go back and read those that are close, and they might go through all the documents that are attached at that point, right? So that's my only guidance would be, think about somebody's got 30 minutes to get through these 6 points and score them. And then they might go back and revisit them, but that's how I would think about it. So summarize. And the one thing I've said that gets missed every once in a while in that initial summary, what are you asking for? How much money and what are you trying to accomplish, right? I mean, put the highlights right at the beginning so people know what you're trying to achieve. That gets left out 25% of the time. And it's hard to figure out what they're actually asking for.
Yeah. I've noticed that in some applications, like you want to lead with the ask.
Yeah, exactly. Did that answer your question?
There was another question from Samantha for the $4 million cap to a single county. Are the grants competitive or first come, first serve? Jeff, if you want to talk about the scoring and the panel again, just go into that.
Yeah, it certainly is competitive. So we've set this grant fund up since the beginning. We have a date for every notice. In this case, it's November 28th. And so I've already got 1 or 2. So I just capture those and put them in a file, and they will sit there until the 28th. And then we will I will provide those to the committee after that date with some instructions and kind of their rubric to look at these weightings. And that's how we go about it. So it will be competitive with everything received as of the 28th of November.
Jeff and Joe, Christina Danis, Central Iowa Regional Council, thanks for doing this. I have a question. Are councils of government eligible applicants?
I don't think they are in the way they've defined it this time. Historically, statewide, on the last notice of funding, they were, I believe. But for the Helene funds, I don't believe they called out councils of government in this case of doing that.
They're identified as a local government under state law. So yeah. Would they not be eligible under that? I
think
definition?
They would be eligible, and we will certainly, encourage that. I will get clarity on that.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Jeff.
But I know, the language on this one was a little bit different than what we just go by what the General Assembly states, and the language on this one wasn't as clear as the language on the last one. It was a little bit different verbiage. And the last one, it clearly allowed for local units or local different types. And we had a few council of governments in the past. And so I would think, we'll get clarity for you on that.
Thank you. We have groups of jurisdictions that are working with that need a regional solution to solve the mitigation. It doesn't help if their neighbor isn't part of the solution as well. And that's
we totally
just
agree.
Yeah, that's not efficient use of taxpayer dollars. If I invest in this fix, but upstream you didn't do anything, and the next storm comes and there we go. So they are asking us to A, build capacity for them, and B, get their partners who are part of the solution to come into a grant together to work. And one may be ready, the other one may not, but a council of government we're hearing can build that capacity to bring in those to have a regional solution for local problems. So I appreciate that. If you could get clarity on that. We've been struggling.
I will, and I'll reach out to you on that. I personally think, we've always had a common sense approach on this, and what you described was a common sense approach. We certainly do not want the bureaucracy of on this to stop doing the good work. One of the things that at the very beginning on this grant, our thought process was, there's a lot of programs that are very good. The grant processes are good, but it takes years sometimes to get mitigation grants. Mm-hmm. Well, if we can stop a community from flooding by just fixing a system of culverts or fixing a system of lines, why don't we go ahead and do that? And if they need to do something else for the program, which is no longer in existence, I always fell back to the BRIC project.
Correct.
But, we don't know where that project stands right now. So this gives us an opportunity, and the General Assembly was been gracious enough to allow us to continue to do this, to be able to support communities in this way. And we'd like to be able to focus in this manner.
You're very rational, Joe. You've always been very rational. I appreciate your rational mindset. So let it prevail in this case. I'm reluctant. I've been asked. We have an application in on the HMGP grant for the first time in the state as the COG. We couldn't even get through Salesforce, but we have 2 counties and 3 communities that are trying to do a regional flood mitigation solution as a result of Helene along the Catawba and other areas. And we've created that string of pearls in mitigation, and they want to work in a regional solution. And we keep butting heads with how to make that work. And I will trust that you and Jeff will get that answer for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've had, just to build on Joe's comment a little bit, I don't think it's been through a council of government, but we've certainly had grantees in past NOFOs that have represented a group of an area because of that same exact reason you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And we were able to make that award, and they just were the lead agency to administer it for everybody.
Yeah. And I just don't want to reach out to them without clarity, okay? Because they're reaching out to us, and I indicated I'm finding out if we can be your partner in this. Okay.
That's good. Thank you. Other questions?
Yes, would removal of an aged dam that does not provide any flood storage, but failure of that dam would threaten property, life, infrastructure, and roads be looked at under this by the agency under this funding opportunity?
I don't see any reason why it would be excluded based on the terms of the NOFO, and we have funded in the past a dam removal project.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Again, that email box is, again, it comes to my email and others. And again, if people have questions that they'd prefer to ask independently, we'll certainly respond to those.
We are launching a new Helene office hours. It's going to include the League, the Association, School of Government, Grow NC, and the goal is to field any type of question that's coming related to recovery efforts, but some of the office hours are going to be focused on grant opportunities, and specifically the ones that are coming with upcoming deadlines. So I wanted to invite you all to join those office hours if you'd like. I know we might talk about these grants a little bit. Our first office hours is going to be on Tuesday. They're going to be Tuesdays at 3 p.m., but you're welcome to join us any Tuesdays. They're through November. If you want to see what's being asked or come in and field any questions related to these grants, you're more than welcome. I'll send you the link to the invitation for that.
All right, appreciate that.
Rebecca, you can send me, if you have my email address as well, go ahead and send me invite too. And, you know, we also have the other programs like public assistance and individual assistance too. And so if you need anything as far as that, I do meet every Thursday with with North Carolina, Commissioners Association.
Right.
And so I will be happy to attend any of those types of meetings. It's a very good opportunity for communities to reach out. So thank you for doing that. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're excited to have as many stakeholders on the call who can field questions specifically. It would be great to include you because you can answer questions about these grant opportunities and various grants, not just this one. So that would be awesome to have you join those office hours.
Other questions? Don't be bashful.
Jeff, thank you for putting this together and addressing this, and thank you for your continual support of this opportunity for these citizens and communities in North Carolina. You've done a great job over the years, and so I just want to publicly say thank you for that. And with that, if there's no other questions or comments, feel free to reach out and we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you.
See you all. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.